All right, it is 6 o'clock, and I would like to announce that this meeting of the Seguin Independent School District has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.043 of the Texas Government Code. At this point, we're going to have Mr. Jenkins lead us in the pledges.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And now we'll take time for a moment of silence. All right, thank you. Dr. Gutierrez, we're moving on to your announcements at this point. Looks like you have a long list.
Good evening. Good evening, trustees and Seguin ISD community. It is my pleasure to share highlights since our June 19th regular board meeting, as well as news from across the school district. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to take a tour of the Seguin Caterpillar manufacturing facility. I want to thank factory manager John Downey and Sonia Vasquez of Human Resources for arranging the visit and the personal tour of their impressive engine production plant. The time was well spent and will help open doors for the district to build relationships with Caterpillar. Mr. Downey has pledged to work with our students and staff to share information about what Caterpillar has to offer for our current and our future workforce. Yesterday, we also received word that Breezy Meister Middle School's Samuel Parrott, who I believe who is here in the audience, who is also the Seguin ISD Secondary Teacher of the Year, is again the recipient of the A+ Federal Credit Union Education Foundation grant to benefit Breezy Meister's choir and theater programs. We'll be sure to recognize Samuel at a future board meeting. Speaking of Teachers of the Year, I'm looking forward to attending a luncheon with Mr. Parrott and our Elementary Teacher of the Year, Tracy Post, on August the 3rd. Region 13 is hosting the event to honor the District Teachers of the Year and will announce the Region 13 Elementary and Secondary Teachers of the Year. Best of luck to both Tracy and Samuel. The Breezy Meister Cheer Squad recently had success at the NCA Cheer Camp held at UTSA. The young ladies earned an excellent and superior ribbon, a team stunt award, and their very first spirit stick. Congratulations to Breezy Meister Cheer for these accomplishments. A reminder that the filing period for Seguin ISD Board of Trustees seats in voting districts 2, 4, 5, and 7 started on Monday. Residents of these districts who are interested in becoming a board candidate must pick up an application packet here at the Seguin ISD admin office between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, except for July 27th and August the 3rd. Completed packets must be returned to the admin office no later than August the 20th at 5 p.m. The terms of the office for trustees in voting districts 2, 4, 5, and 7, set to expire November 6, 2018, are 4-year terms. Additionally, voter registration applications are available at the front desk during business hours. For voter registration information, visit the Texas Secretary of State's website at www.votetexas.gov or stop by the Guadalupe County Elections Office at 215 South Millam Street. The Seguin ISD summer camps continue to be popular with students and families. This morning, we had 24 campers board a school bus and accompany Pete Silvius up to HEB camp in near Leakey, Texas. I imagine that our campers will be spending quite a bit of time in and around the Frio River as respite from the heat. Also underway this week is Chess Champions Camp at Kinnicky Elementary. We welcomed our principals back to duty yesterday, which means we are quickly picking up speed and back to school mode. Registration begins 2 weeks from today. Convocation is set for August the 20th, and I have heard from many parents and grandparents who are excited about August 23rd, the first day of school. We are destined for an excellent 2018-2019 school year, and as always, I appreciate the community support of our students and teachers.
Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. I have a feeling our board member reports will be short. The only thing I experienced last weekend, we had our high school opened up to a drum corps, an international drum corps competition. They came here to practice because they had a huge competition going on in San Antonio. And I was really pleased to see a lot of our band members there watching, and it was an incredible show. It took my breath away, and it was really, really hot out there. And I felt so bad for those students, or I guess they're students, college students that were out on the field, but it was very, very impressive. Also coming up in September, we have over at our PAC, we have a community theater that's going to be taking place. It's called Will's War. If you're not familiar with Will's War, please read about it in the newspapers. It's a book that was written by Janice Wendell, and she wrote other books that you may be familiar with, like True Women and so on. And her grandson actually wrote the script for this play. And they're using a lot of community members as actors, as well as bringing in some professional actors. And then our high school students and will be able to work alongside with these professionals. So it's a win-win situation, and we're really looking forward to it. So please try to make it over there. Mr. Holt? All right.
I'm Barbara Ettenberger. I'm actively support.
I took a personal exterior tour of Brizemeister, and I see a lot of metal. The fence has been put up, and I also saw the same thing for Barnes. There's a lot of fencing, and I see that the sidewalk on Kinnicky is almost complete. And my sister's grandkids told me to say thank you because they walked that area, and she's thankful that they will be using the sidewalk instead of the street. And that's all I have.
Well, I missed the school board meeting last month because my son and I were in Malawi, Africa, and we spent 10 days there, and we learned a lot. So he had a great time. We plan to go back next year.
I have nothing to report. All right. Mr. Floyd?
Nothing to report.
Okay. All right, moving on to the audience with the board. The Seguin ISD Board of Trustees designates a time for audience participation at the beginning of each meeting in order to hear persons who desire to make comments. In accordance with local board policy, those wishing to speak shall sign up before the meeting, begin stating the concern or noting the agenda item they wish to address. They're limited to 5 minutes. If there are more than 5 persons wanting to speak, they would appoint a representative, and the board will not deliberate. And we do have a speaker this evening, and that's Mr. Nolan Schmidt. So Nolan, come on up. He's going to be talking to us about a recently released book. You want to share?
I know this is my 3rd time coming up here. Made sure I had some written this time instead of just talking on the fly. Recently, I wrote my first children's novel titled Linnell and the Elementary School Lock-In. It is currently available to purchase on lulu.com and will soon be available on other online retail sites like Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I personally wanted to come today because I would like to let the entire school district know that I will personally, as a personal gift for the school district, for all 7 elementary schools, that I will personally purchase a copy for all 7 of the elementary schools and donate copies to each of the elementary schools as my own personal gift, as both a student who attended many of the schools here in Seguin. Also, if anyone wants to have any more information about the book, you can please feel free to come talk to me after the meeting, since I don't want to take too much time up here, since I know there's a lot of important stuff on the agenda.
Thank you, Nolan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, we're kind of moving the order of things around this evening, and we are going to be going into closed session early. So we're going to adjourn into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. 551.071, 551.074, 551.129, and these are falling under those are consultation with legal counsel, including possible telephone consultation with legal counsel as necessary to address legal concerns, implications, and answer any legal questions regarding posted agenda items. Also pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074 to discuss personnel matters, including appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of an employee. So we will hold discussions regarding the McQueenie Elementary School principal, the Seguin High School academic dean, the Jim Barnes Middle School principal, the Potlawn Elementary School assistant principal, Rodriguez Elementary School assistant principal, and Weinert Elementary School assistant principal. So we'll go into closed section at 6:41. All right, we will now reconvene at 7:04. And on the agenda, section 4A, possible action on professional personnel, including appointment, employment, evaluation, assignment duties, dismissal or discipline or dismissal of a public employee, starting off with number 1, possible action to select McQueenie Elementary School principal.
Madam President,
Mr. Holt.
I move that we elect the recommended name from our McQueenie School principal.
All right, I have a
That was
motion
provided by Dr. Gutierrez.
from Mr. Holt to select the name that was given. And a second from Mr. Amador. Any further questions or comments from the board? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, opposed, same sign. Motion 7-0 carries. Dr. Gutierrez?
Board of Trustees, I'm pleased to announce the new principal for McQueenie Elementary for the 2018-2019 school year, coming to us from Vogel Elementary, and that is Mrs. Meredith Stadler, currently serving as assistant principal. Mrs. Stadler has been in education for 13 years. She has taught various elementary grade levels during her career, including middle school and elementary self-contained classes. She has a strong background in early literacy and feels confident she can support teachers at all levels, K through 5. Meredith has served as the assistant principal at Vogel Elementary the past 3 years and has gained valuable experience in the areas of state testing, response to intervention, 504, special education programming, and campus-wide discipline. Ms. Stadler feels she is ready for this next step in her educational career and is even more excited about the opportunity to serve the students, staff, and parents as the principal of McQueenie Elementary School.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to let everybody know that I truly believe that Seguin ISD is the next destination district, just like Dr. Gutierrez does, and that the exceptional students of Seguin ISD are truly the exceptional citizens and leaders of tomorrow. I am humbled and honored to be a part of this journey with McQueenie Elementary and very excited to come on and lead that family in our next steps. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Congratulations.
Moving on to 4A2, possible action to select Seguin High School academic dean.
Move for approval.
Move for approval, Mr. Holt. Is that a second? Or was that you? Okay. Y'all always give me. Okay, Mr. Flores gave us a motion. Do I hear a second? A second from Mr. Holt. Any further discussion? Not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Gutierrez.
Pleased to announce the new academic dean for the high school, Miss Allison Gillentine. Miss Allison Gillentine is coming to Seguin ISD from Hayes Consolidated Independent School District and has been in education for 14 years. In her educational career, she served as a middle school science teacher, special programs coordinator, science specialist, and most recently the district science coordinator. Miss Gillentine stated that her experiences have fostered a productive, effective, student-focused educational approach to curriculum that maximizes success on campuses and in the classroom. She is creative, compassionate, and highly motivated for success no matter what obstacle may arise. She is thrilled to be part of our flagship high school leadership team and will proudly serve the students, staff, and families of Seguin High School.
Thank you. Good evening. How are you guys? So the high school is beautiful. I am super excited to have everyone in one house from Seguin that becomes members of your community. I'm excited to serve them and see them from freshmen to seniors. I'm going to implement relationships with teachers, staff, and student, make it relevant for everyone, and increase the rigor to show academic success and growth. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right, for a 3, possible action to select Barnes Middle School Assistant Principal. Do I hear a motion? Mr. Amador, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Holt. So I have a motion and a second to accept this individual's name for a Barnes Middle School principal. No further questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. All right, Dr. Gutierrez.
I'm pleased to announce Vanessa Chapa Gibson as the new assistant principal at Barnes Middle School. Ms. Vanessa Gibson joins our team from Corpus Christi, where she has 12 years of experience in education and served as a middle school assistant principal for the past 3 years. During her time as an assistant principal, Ms. Gibson has learned the critical components of assisting middle school students and staff with the day-to-day instructional needs. She feels her responsibility as a campus administrator is to support the vision of the principal, work collaboratively with staff and the school community, and to ensure that all students are given the tools to become successful. Her administrative experience will be of great benefit for Barnes Middle School students, staff, and parents. Ms. Chapa Gibson is excited about her new position and looks forward to supporting Barnes 6th, 7th, and 8th graders this year.
Good evening. I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity. I really am excited to be here. I'm enjoying my time already and look forward to building a family here, and growing professionally here in the district as well. But thank you again.
Welcome to Seguin.
Thank you.
All right, and for a 4, possible action to select Potlawn Elementary School Assistant Principal. Do I hear a motion?
Madam President, move to take action to select Potlawn Elementary School Assistant Principal.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Do I hear a second? A second from Mr. Amador. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Passes 7-0.
I'm excited to announce Ms. Valerie McKinney as the new assistant principal for Potlawn Elementary. Ms. Valerie McKinney joined the Seguin ISD family approximately 3 years ago, where she has served as a special education teacher at Vogel Elementary. It's another one from Vogel. Prior to that, Valerie served as a special education and RTI teacher for Judson Middle School. During her educational coursework, Valerie specialized in the area of reading in an effort to support those students who struggle the most in this area. She feels her experience both at both districts will help her support teachers in planning to ensure targeted lessons support students at all levels and will help students achieve personal and academic goals. Ms. McKinney's specialized reading, special education knowledge will be an asset to support Potlawn Elementary. She is humbled but yet thrilled to be provided this opportunity to serve our families at Potlawn Elementary.
Thank you all so much for this opportunity. I'm really excited to be more active role in Seguin ISD.
All right, thank you. For a 5, possible action to select Rodriguez School Elementary School Assistant Principal. Do I hear a motion?
Make motion for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. And a second from Mr. Holt. Any further discussion? Not everybody in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. 7-0. Dr. Gutierrez, poor baby.
Pending release from her current school district, we are excited to announce Yolanda Grijalva, Assistant Principal at Rodriguez Elementary. Yolanda Grijalva has been in education for the past 9 years. She currently serves as the English Language Arts Dual Language Interventionist and Instructional Coach with New Braunfels ISD. She is very familiar with bilingual education and early literacy with her teaching experiences in 1st grade, 3rd grade, and 4th grade dual language. Her experiences include providing collaborative and one-on-one instructional coaching, facilitating teacher inquiry and related professional development activities, and analyzing and interpreting data for the purpose of designing effective instructional lessons. Yolanda's goal is to obtain a position that will allow her to utilize her leadership and instructional skills to positively impact student learning. Ms. Grijalva is pending release, as already stated, from her current district, but she is excited about the possibility of joining the Matador family.
And she's not here this evening? Okay, all right. And last but not least, for a 6th possible action to select Weinert Elementary School Assistant Principal.
Madam President, I move to appoint the Weiner Elementary School Assistant Principal as named by Dr. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Holt. Do I hear a second? Second from Mr. Amador. Any discussion? Not? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Carries 7-0. Dr. Gutierrez.
I am excited to announce Ms. Annalisa Rangel as the new Assistant Principal for Weinert Elementary. Annalisa Rangel has been serving the students of Seguin ISD for the past 10 years. She most recently has served as a 4th grade teacher at McQueenie Elementary. She has played an active role in assisting with curriculum writing, mentoring teachers, and preparing for state assessments. She has developed strong, confident leadership skills over the years and is committed to advocate for all students in Seguin ISD. Ms. Rangel is no stranger to Seguin ISD as she herself graduated as a Matador. Annalisa knows our community and knows our kids and is fully committed to grow, cultivate, and inspire students in their path from being exceptional students to exceptional citizens. Ms. Rangel will be a great addition to the Weinert community.
I am so excited, blessed, and humbled to be given this opportunity. This district has my heart, as you mentioned. I was educated here through pre-K all the way to 12th grade. And the district has given me so much, and I can't wait to give that back to the students. We have the best students here, and I'm excited to be part of the leadership team and given this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rangel. We have so many new members of the Matador family. We're going to take a few minutes. We're going to take a recess for about 10 minutes to chat with them. And we will be back here at 7:25-ish. All right, we're going to call this meeting back to order, please. I'll give you a few seconds to get back to your chairs. It is 7:26. All right, we're going to be moving on to our reports and information items. We're going to start off with the Seguin ISD Food Service Department was awarded at the Silver Center 8th Annual Taste of Seguin event. So Mr. Hilberg and Mr. Galvan, tell us all about it.
We'll let our new Director of Food Service tell you all about it. So President Jimenez, Dr. Gutierrez, members of the board, we have some great information that we'd like to share with you today regarding a recent event with the Child Nutrition Department. We've also changed the name subsequent to this agenda item. So we're going with Child Nutrition as opposed to Food Service, but nonetheless, the information is great. So take it away, Jacob.
Members of the board, Dr. Gutierrez, staff, community, it's a pleasure to be up here. The Seguin ISD Child Nutrition Department received the Judge's Choice Runner-Up Award in the entree category during the Silver Center's 8th Annual Taste of Seguin event held June 19th of 2018. The award-winning entree was our Chicken Florentine Panini. It's an original recipe created by the Child Nutrition Department. Winning this award is particularly noteworthy as the school district was competing against several local restaurants and other eating establishments. The Child Nutrition Department is proud to inform the school board and the community that the chicken Florentine panini, as you can see, looks pretty scrumptious, has been a regular menu item served at all district campuses during the last school year. The entree is also currently served Mondays at Park West. The Child Nutrition Department serves lunch at Park West at 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday throughout the entire summer, and our last day of serving will be August 9th. So we invite all of you, all of the community, to come out and support and get a little wet at Splash Pad and enjoy some great lunch. Like I said, 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. So we hope to see you all there.
Congratulations.
I'd also like to mention it's free for children ages 1 to 18. Big plus there. Adult meals $360.
Still a bargain. Still a bargain.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Galvin.
Sure.
Okay. All right, item 5B, Seguin ISD receives the Texas Comptroller's Debt Transparency Star. Mr. Hilbert.
More great news we'd like to share, and in that regard, we have Denise Erlinson, who has worked tirelessly on the district's website, getting it not compliant, I should say, but transparent with regard to the state comptroller's criteria. So we'll let her speak to that.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Gutierrez. A year ago, we did the Transparency Star and the basic financials, and that just kind of puts out the information so that the taxpayers can download in different formats, kind of play with it and see what we're doing behind the scenes. This is another star. There's 5 total. We're eligible to get 4 of the 5. So the next one we were awarded, I believe in March. We're a little slow at announcing it, but was the debt transparency. And the comptrollers, part of their statement when they award it is by providing taxpayers with essential debt information in a variety of formats, Seguin ISD has shown a true commitment to Texas taxpayers. So we're just trying to get the information out, let the taxpayers know what we're doing with the money that they are paying for the taxes, and just make it a little bit easier to understand. My pastor likes to say, put the cookies on the bottom shelf. So,
all right. Thank you, Ms. Erlinson.
thank you.
Thank you, and great work.
Congratulations. Moving on to, that's a lot of hard work.
It is. It truly is. It's and something that I would encourage any who are interested. You can actually go and see what other districts in the entire state have these stars, and you can see what stars they have. I think if you were to do that, you'd be very proud of Seguin ISD.
Okay. Moving on to item 5C, the student paid meal pricing for the 2018-19 school year for, is it Child Nutrition Services? Did I get it right?
You got it right. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
All
And
right.
I think this is more good news. We'll let Mr. Galvan speak to that.
Hello once more. As a participant in the National School Lunch Program, Seguin ISD is required to establish paid meal prices based on criteria set forth by federal regulations. Each year, the Department of Agriculture provides participating districts with a meal price adjustment calculator to be used to determine the necessary paid meal price for the subsequent school year. Based on the calculations for Seguin ISD, there is not a need for an increase to paid meal prices for the 2018-19 school year. Our current lunch meal prices are set for $2.80 for K through 5th grade and $3 for 6th through 12th grade. These meal prices are only for the full-pay students whose households have not applied or do not qualify for free or reduced benefits. Using the price calculator, we find that the district has a weighted average price of $2.88, which puts us within the acceptable range set by the Texas Department of Agriculture. For this reason, we have opted not to increase meal prices for the 2018-19 school year. And if there are any questions regarding that, I'd be happy to answer them.
No questions, but I'm sure there are a lot of happy people out there.
I think so.
Yes.
We did it for the parents, definitely.
Great news. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 5D. Seguin ISD has been asked to lease a vacant property to an outside organization.
Thought I was done.
No, you're not done
We're
yet.
not done yet, almost. Okay, get my folder out here, yes. So we bring this as an information item because there's no action to take at the moment. There's no lease on the table at the moment. It's a unique situation, and we want to get an idea of how the board feels about moving forward with this. So what we have is a request from what we could call an outside organization, but what is also in fact an elected official's office. They're wanting to have an office for their staff, part-time each day, weekday. And I believe it's just, they're looking for one office, a very small area. And so we were approached recently about the option to do that. We did discuss this with the district's legal counsel, and we received assurance that it's legal. So it is perfectly legal. There are some stipulations, and I've spelled that out in the agenda item. Our attorney has looked over the agenda item, and they're good with the way it's worded here. So we can share more information if you feel that's important. Happy to answer any questions that you have to the extent that I can. So we'll open it up for that.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Jenkins.
How many entities are leasing property from Seguin ISD at this time?
At this time, well, there's the on the grind right now is technically a lease. Arlen's is a lease. I don't know of any others. There's been some discussion of some purchases, but those really were, they were so far under the realm of reality.
What I've seen the district with the leases that we do have, they've been a positive thing, so it's a good thing.
Well, it's certainly, without trying to sway anyone, a lease is better than just a vacant property.
Right.
We have costs associated with vacant properties. With respect to utilities, with respect to insurance, upkeep, when a property is leased, all of those things are at least offset. They're not necessarily covered, but at least they're offset. And so there are a number of vacant properties at Seguin ISD right now. If we could lease them all, I'd be up here a lot more often.
Any further questions? So it's money coming in, and it's not going to interfere with school business at all. So
Correct.
All right.
It's actually, they were considering the old parenting center, as I believe is disclosed here. So they wouldn't even be parking in an area that would affect actual school operations. And we're only talking about one staff member, so.
All right. All right, well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 5E, we have a report on the 2018 Model Schools Conference. Mr. Schmidt.
Board President Jimenez, members of the board, Dr. Gutierrez, I'd like to take a moment this evening to speak a little bit about the Model Schools Conference that we attended. We took a team of educators over to Orlando, Florida, June 24th through 27th, to really get into some of the best practices that are happening, not only from a local standpoint, but really across the nation. And really to really bring this home to you all, I thought the best way to do this would be to actually have a presentation with 4 of the participants. We had a nice cross-section of educators, some school administrators, and just so you know, really in the name of continuous improvement, collaboration, and also just in transparency, one of the things that we do when we go to a conference, we like to be able to debrief. We talk about takeaways, we talk about implementation, next steps, We've also talked about having accountability partners to help us with implementation along the way. We sit down and talk about next steps, and tonight I'd like to give you just a little cross-section about some of the learning that took place. You also do have some notes, I believe, with you that correspond with the rest of the learning that took place. So without further ado, I would like to call up Michael Garza, also Samuel Parrott, Katie Darst, and Annalisa Ronhell. Y'all want to sit over there, and we'll let you take it away, Mr. Garza.
Good evening, ma'am, sir, gentlemen, ladies. First I'd like to say is I've been in this district since 2010, 2011. And in the last 2 professional develops that I've attended, which are PLCs, Professional Learning Communities, and model schools, I have learned so much on how to be an administrator and to be better, effective leader instructionally in our campus. So I'd like to say thank you. Model schools is just, for me, something that we talked about right when we left. We're coming back next year to present. And me, the way I am, I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to be the school to do it. Because we have things that we're going to implement on our campus. And we'll talk about the first part of the slide, which talks about a campus in Boston that had 4,000 students, 100 different languages, and they were at the bottom of the barrel of everything. And they introduced this literacy plan that we're going to do at Barnes starting this year. And it took them from being nationally at the bottom to moving up to the top. So that's what I have learned, that we can do that in our campus. And we only have 850 students, and they can do it with 4,000 plus, we can do it. The 2 things that I'll be talking about are literacy plan and growth mindset, are my 2 takeaways that I've taken away from this conference. We're going to create a literacy plan, and what I've given each one of you is basically a program that we're going to go through, and that's going to walk us through how we're going to do it. There are some empty things as you start looking at it. They'll be like, well, what about this? What about that? That's in red. Those are things that in the first part when we talk about empowering a team, that's the team that I've got to come when we get started, that our teachers are going to be part of. I can go through and I can take the book, and there's a book about the whole process. I can go through and I can put everything in there, but it's mine. I want the teachers to understand and see what it's about. So they are going to be the one in the 4 steps that are going to empower a team. We're going to start that on the 15th when our teachers get back. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on literacy, no exceptions. I've been in here now and I've learned, and I learned from this conference that no matter what, you stick to your plan and this has got to be done. Everybody has to be on the same page. And as a leader, it starts with me and it's going to go down all the way to the bottom. And I know we have the support from district office. They're willing to help us in every way we can, which is going to help us. We're going to implement with fidelity and the detailed plan. In the book that is written for this program, it has a script, and you'll see the script in there, and it tells you exactly how things are going to be laid out. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to do it for us here in Texas. And the most important part is that we're going to monitor it. We will go through classes to classes. We will be there to support the teacher. The team that's going to be empowered to start this literacy program are going to go into the classrooms. They're going to help us with walkthroughs. We'll get district office to come, Mr. Smith's team to come and help us with walkthroughs so they can see what's going on. And we invite you because there is a calendar in there that says what will be going on our campus as well. This is kind of an arrow of how we're going to do the program. We're going to review the data. The data that we're reviewing, of course, is our STAR data that we receive. We'll go through it, look at it, see what we need to work on. We're going to select an area of focus, which when we talked to the presenter, she said, whatever you do, focus on writing. Our kids need to learn how to write. There's also reading, there's also reasoning, and there's also speaking. She said, go with writing. So that's what we're going with. For us, it's even better because 7th grade happened to take a writing test. So this program will start with our 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders, not just focus on 7th grade and not just focus on STAR, but focus on the ability for our students to write. When we start at the 6th grade, that's just going to give our 6th graders a bonus as they move forward. We're going to develop a training script, which is outlined in your pamphlet, and then we're going to create the PD sequence, and that is looking at who we're going to start with. And for our sake of our campus, what we're going to do is we're going to start with social studies. We're going to start teaching those kids in 7th, 7th, and 6th grade to start writing with the script. Then we're going to develop the rubric. The rubric will look just like what they do when they look at our STAR scores and they look at those writing samples that they do. That's what we're going to go by, and you'll see also there's the TEKS in there for the 7th grade writing, which was what we'll follow through. And then we'll examine the student work. This is going to be important because there's a rubric in there in your pamphlet, and that rubric is peer-to-peer reviewing, the teacher reviewing, and then there are also going to be administrators that will go in there and review it. And we will keep these writing samples throughout the year on our students. The next thing we're going to talk about at our campus that we're changing is growth mindset. As we talked today in our leadership meeting, as I talked to my assistant principals and my leadership team, the growth mindset and how we think about our students and how we project what's going to happen is a big thing. And we are going to start changing our growth mindset of our teachers and our students on our campus. There are two types. There's a growth mindset and there's a fixed mindset. Right now, I can say that we really have somewhat of a fixed mindset because we say, these kids can do this, this person can do that, that teacher can only do this. Well, we can't. We've got to get them to think, how can we get everybody to grow instead? It's got to work for every student. Not all students, but every student has an ability one way or another, and that's what we're going to change on our campus, is ensuring that everybody has a growth mindset. What's going to help our teachers is that I've purchased 50 books already. They're sitting in my office. We are going to give a book to every one of our teachers. And in this book that we got, The Growth Mindset, the Coach, it's a month-by-month playbook. Basically, bless you, ma'am. Basically, that book is going to allow us to have, with our professional learning communities, a time to sit with our teachers and ensure that we're going through this growth mindset change together as a team. So one week out of the month, it'll be growth mindset with our teachers. 1 week out of the month will be our literacy plan, and 2 weeks out of the month is going to be our professional growth with our teachers, getting them ready to do the planning. This is small, but it kind of lays out the different month to month what we're going to do. And the first thing we're going to do is August. We will do the August and September together. On some of those we'll mix together. As well as we'll do the January and February together to make sure we get that, because those are long breaks. That's a brief presentation. Is there any questions?
Real quick, it's for more Dr. Gutierrez. It's obviously this program has success. So if this is something that Barnes is doing, is this something that we want to implement across Meister as well? I mean, if to have a commonality between our both middle schools?
I really do believe that this plan could be replicated at another campus. I had the opportunity to visit with Mr. Garza and go through this extensively, and I'm quite impressed with the product that came from attending that conference, because it can certainly have a huge impact. The focus on writing doesn't neglect math or ELA or science. Well, writing is ELA, but the writing should be happening across all content areas, and this is going to allow teachers to be able to make that happen because there's a tool with ongoing support. And what I appreciate about this writing plan and the book study is that there is follow-up every month and there's ongoing support from the administrative team. But I certainly have been quite impressed. I've had the opportunity to learn from Susan, can't say her last name,
It's a tough one, sir.
Horowitz. No, it's Zakowitz. But she brought one of the historically lowest performing, poorest, toughest schools in Massachusetts to become one of the highest performing in the state, outperforming more affluent schools. And to be able to provide this experience for our administrators and teachers. I have to thank you all for approving the dollars to make this happen, but I'd like to see a collaborative effort between our two middle schools, and I think we can see an impact and look at, well, how can we do this district-wide, even at elementaries. But I really do appreciate your efforts, Mr. Garza. I believe you have a team in place that is able, you're going to have some solid support from your administrative team, and I'm looking forward to seeing the growth in writing at Barnes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good.
Yes, sir.
Is the book available at Amazon?
No, it's not. We bought the last one actually because they didn't have a whole lot. But you can go to the International
Center for Leadership and Education.
And they have.
I can send that information.
And they're $29.99, and we actually went on there and we used budget money again. With every dollar we get at Barnes, that's the first place I throw it into that part for education and looking at it. So we also bought 10 books of that for the team that's going to be empowered to put this together, so they can go through and they can start reviewing that as well. So those books are on the way as well.
And just a request, Dr. Gutierrez, as this progresses on, if you could provide feedback on how it's going throughout the year on our updates, I'd be grateful. Just would like to follow up with that.
Absolutely, and I'd also like, should we move forward with partnering with ICLE and bringing them to work with our secondary schools, I'd like to invite the board to really see firsthand what our administrators and teachers are going to be going through as we embark on the work and really looking at the rigor relevance framework that comes through this organization that put on the Model Schools Conference.
Thank you. And I guess Mr. Parrott, you're up next.
I want to thank y'all for allowing me to go on this conference and get to experience from a different perspective. Most of my perspectives come from a music conference, and so to learn from a general ed conference was really exciting for me. So my accountability partner is going to be Daniel Springfield at Breezy, and these are my takeaways. How's it work? Oh, hey, it works. So my first takeaway was about building relationships. I was taking notes on my iPad and I realized that I was starring things that were being repeated, and the thing that kept being repeated was building relationships with students. And I started to expand upon that with building relationships between students and also other staff. So the takeaway was that students thrive on feeling wanted, supported, and needed in the classroom. I think that for us that feels very obvious that students want to feel like they belong in that classroom. And that building those individual connections are difficult. Some of us have upwards to 150, 200 students at a time. Building that individual connection is difficult, but it is vital for us to establish a rapport with them and build that trust. And then designing our classroom around that, designing our classroom around a place of safety and comfort, that way that they feel welcomed in there and that they're ready to learn. My next steps with this is going to be reviewing my own classroom process, how I do things in my classroom, and then bounce those ideas off of other teachers in the electives department, the fine arts department at Breezy, and then find those other teachers in Breezy that are also early adopters in the changes of or in the phases of change theory, and start to build that culture within and start building it from the ground up. And I want to work from that with the fine arts, as I mentioned, choir, cheer, musical theater, etc., and start to build that up from within. And the second one was creating something that's the way we do things, not just another program. And that's a mindset from the teacher's perspective and a mindset from the student perspective as well. That when we work with our early adopters, that this needs to be seen as important and necessary for our school in order to create the change that we're going to see. And that teachers should be well informed, that we should be given plenty of professional development in order to allow us to grow and give us a strong buy-in from within that. And then that culture, it needs to include everyone. It needs to not just include the upper stakeholders that are normally referred to in research, but in the families, local businesses, and students. Students are the most important when it comes to that. And that we need time to take away and digest. As teachers, we need time to take away and digest that this is the way that things are going to be from here on out, and also be able to revisit it and continue to grow from that. My next step personally is that I'm going to voice my own personal concerns. I'm very hesitant about voicing how I feel, so I'm going to openly voice my ideas at staff meetings, and then start to build by leading by example and build from within. And then I'm going to utilize peer-reviewed research that is based around the restorative practices and start to implement that in my classroom as well. And then ask to create PD for the campus and for the district to start to share what I'm finding through action research in my classroom. So again, thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you today and allowing me to go to that conference.
Thank you, Mr. Parrott.
Thank you, Mr. Parrott.
Ms. Darst.
Hi, I'm Katie Darst. I teach second grade at Rodriguez Elementary School. And actually, we got to go on my birthday, so this is a really inspiring, influential gift. So I was very thankful for that. My accountability was Miss Annalisa Rangel. And I kind of want to mention the accountability partners a little bit. I thought that was a really cool idea, just to kind of hold one another accountable, but to also understand that we're not on this journey alone. We have someone kind of going along with us to hold us accountable and say, okay, Katie, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, but also to kind of to lift us up a little bit. So when we're thinking, okay, maybe this isn't exactly how I planned, someone to kind of buddy with us. So I really enjoyed that. Okay, so my first takeaway is kind of making an intentional effort to change. So the world that we live in now is very innovative, very technology savvy. And my first takeaway is to kind of be open to doing uncomfortable things. So something that might make you go, ooh, I haven't done that before, but I'm willing to try it. So kind of having that mindset of, okay, no, I haven't done it before, and it might make me feel a little uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it anyway because it's best for kids. To kind of start with that. Another takeaway that I had was to network with others. The great thing about teachers is we have great ideas, so why not use them? Why not go out, use Twitter, Facebook, Skype, go around virtually and try to find those really data-driven practices to utilize within our classrooms, within our community. Next is to establish self-efficacy with students. So students are a lot more willing to buy into learning if they are the ones making their own goals. So that was a really big takeaway for me. If they are making their own goals, if they're holding themselves accountable, if they have accountability partners, they're more likely to achieve their goals as well. Next is to invite messy outcomes. So this is something we might not have done before. The first time go around, it's not going to look pretty right away, but eventually with practice and with those accountability partners, it's going to turn out how we want it to be. And lastly, to focus on pedagogy first while incorporating technology. So we do live in a very technologically advanced world, and it's so easy to hand someone the iPad, hand them the computer, go crazy. But that's not best practice. We need to focus on the content first and use the technology to back up what they were taught, basically, to kind of partner those two together. So that was a really big takeaway for me, some of those. So the next step, so taking all this knowledge and kind of taking it home. So to share what we learned with our campuses, within our community, also discussing how this change is going to look within the classroom, within our professional learning communities, and throughout the district as well. Also talking about how we're going to start this, when are we going to start this, what that's going to look like. And I know Mr. Garza, he jumped right off, so I'm like, woo, we need to get a hold of that as well. That was a really awesome plan. Thank you for sharing that. And lastly, so Annalisa and I are accountability partners, but also to kind of incorporate that throughout the school as well. So kind of find someone who's going to hold us accountable throughout the school and throughout the district as well. So my second takeaway was a purposeful focus on mental health. As many of you know, mental health is an issue within not just the world, but also in Seguin. So kind of taking the time to create those relationships, kind of like Mr. Parrott talked about a little bit. Also creating a space within the classroom, within the school, that invites vulnerability. So having the students understand that you're not always going to come in with the best day. But for them to see, oh, my teacher sometimes does not always come in the best, her best self. So understanding that things are going to happen and there are different processes we can take to make those situations a little bit better. Next is to kind of understand the importance of self-care. So a lot of us will go, and never stop and just breathe a little bit. So to kind of relay that to our students and within our schools, that we need to take the time to self-reflect and to step back and to breathe and to understand that we're not always expected to go 125 miles an hour all the time. So, and lastly, involve all. So it'd be great if we could solve all the problems within the classroom, but also to kind of invite that out into the community as well. So here are some resources that can help you outside, mom and dad, aunt and uncle, the whole kind of community within that. So again, taking my takeaways and kind of taking it home to my campus and throughout the district as well. Share what we learned, discuss what it will look like in classrooms, in the district, in the community, and also collaborate on how to start and, again, create accountability partners. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi again. Okay, I want to thank you all for letting us go to this conference. Out of my 10 years, it was one of the best conferences I ever attended, and I learned a lot of things. I'm going to focus on two major things, and some Mr. Parrott and Katie kind of touched on. The first one was a takeaway. It's kind of building relationships, and a lot of the conferences that I attended and sessions I attended, that was a primary focus on building relationships with students. Whether and understanding what your students and getting to know them personally, making those connections. So that could be in the area of understanding their culture, which is a session I attended, understanding how race affects school. And then the one that I took away was understanding the role of trauma that affects our students. Unfortunately, we do live in a society where our students face situations of trauma. So going to that event, and the statistics are staggering of how many students face that and come with baggage in your classrooms. You don't know what happened the night before or when they walked in this morning, what they experienced. So recognizing what trauma looks like and working with our counselors and our staff for teachers to recognize our staff. It could be anybody that recognizes trauma and how to deal with it. And the big takeaway from that is being an empathetic educator versus a sympathetic educator. We do not want to feel sorry. We do a little bit, but you need to provide them resilience because we want them to move past and to be their best students that they can be. And so that was trauma. Countless numbers of students deal with that on a daily basis, so understanding that. And bringing that to the campus in form of training, working closely with our counselors in Ms. McCore's office, and we need to understand how that affects, and methods to support them. The second one, part of the keynote speech when we got there, I was like, are we at a tech conference or are we at an educator conference? It started off with an emphasis on tech and how fast and growing it's moving. It blew my mind on nanotechnology, which I wasn't totally familiar with, but we need to face the reality that we are educating our students for the 21st century. Most of the jobs that they will be getting don't even exist today. So core academics are, of course, always going to be important, but focusing on 21st century skills such as problem solving, being a collaborator, social skills. We want to make sure that we're meeting those needs of the students and providing that when our teachers are planning with our instructional coaches and our professional learning communities. We want to make that a goal that we have those 21st century skills being involved in lessons. We don't just want algebra, we want them to be collaborative and be able to step into those roles that have not been even invented yet. So that's basically the two, and I, again, thank you, because I think 19 of us attended, and we all attended different sessions, and we gathered so much information that we're ready to share with our campuses and with the district.
Thank you, Ms. Rangel.
Once again, on behalf of Seguin ISD and all of the teachers and educators, thank you all for letting us attend. The collaboration, the opportunities were really better than we could have hoped for. Do y'all have any more questions?
No, I just want to say I do appreciate you all coming together at the end of a long day, because we know 8 to 5 is a long day to go through sessions where you're overwhelmed with all the learning, but then to come together afterward to take the time to debrief and share with others really means a lot. That typically doesn't happen. In most cases, you have that free time. But I thoroughly enjoyed going through your debrief notes, and I really do look forward to visiting your classrooms and seeing you all implement these things and seeing the impact that it's going to have, not only in your classrooms, but at your schools as you share the learning with others.
Thanks to all of you for sticking around this evening. All right, moving on to item 5F, we have a report on performance-based monitoring analysis system from February 5th through 9th, 2018, an on-site visit report from Mr. Cantu.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Gutierrez. So this evening I'm going to go through a presentation that was developed to debrief the report that we received from TEA. So this is not going to be comprehensive because we're going to roll this out in phases. And so the first phase of being transparent and sharing what the findings were just that. What were the findings? So I briefly want to touch on what PBMAS is about. And so this is something that the state developed to monitor our special programs such as bilingual ESL, CTE, our federal programs such as Title I, migrant, and then special education. So this has been around since 2004. What you'll see is a timeline of events that happen from when the report is released all the way into when we receive the report here at the district. So this report is released in August. We were notified that we were a select few from Region 20. TEA does site visits based on their findings at each different region. And so within each region, they select a few schools to visit. It could be that they're looking at bilingual because it was stage 4, and I'll talk about what that means in a little bit. But when they're here, they're not just going to focus on bilingual. Since they're here, they will look at all the programs. And so we received that notification in November. The site visit was in February, and then we just received the report 2 weeks ago now. I think it was on the 19th.
We received the report, I believe it was on Monday.
On Monday, there you go. It's been pretty quick or pretty recent. So what I'm going to do here is just go into the areas of how we were staged in Seguin ISD. So this is, in CTE, it was stage 4. Stage 4 is the highest level of staging. For all of these programs, you want to be at a 0, and I'll share what a 0 means. Bilingual stage 3, migrant 1, and special education 1. There are 32 indicators that they look at, and so I didn't pull the performance metrics for every single indicator, because if not, you would have 32 of those slides or tables. And I just wanted to show you that you really can't go and compare CTE to bilingual side by side, because the metric or the way they measure is very different. And so if you would look at that last column, it says PL or performance level 3. In mathematics, in order to be in PL3 for STAR, they use STAR as a measure. They want to see how our students are performing who are bilingual or ESL when they took STAR. And if 0 to 49% of our students are performing in that area, we would be a stage 4 for that one indicator in mathematics. Notice that the PL3 in special education, if you look at STAR mathematics, it isn't aligned. That performance can be between 20 and 39%. So the reason I wanted to share that is not just to throw out numbers, but to really encourage us. Well, we want to be able to say, are all these programs the same? We really can't do that. So we have to take them individually, program by program. So in this next slide, I wanted to provide a historical or longitudinal view of the data. So we have the data on here from 2012-13. you can see the stages. If it says okay, it means that we were at a 0, which we want to be at a 0 in all of them. The higher the stage, the more work that we have to do, pretty much. An integrated on-site visit means TEA came to do an actual review at the district. So you'll see that they were here in 2012-13. The year after that, they call it year after on-site. They tell you, here's some recommendations, go ahead and do them, we'll be back a year later. So then they visited 14-15, and then we got this visit 17-18. And so that just provides an overview of where we are as far as staging and how TEA has come to the district several years in a row. Well, not in a row, but in the last few years. So now I'm going to dive into CTE, or Career and Technology Education. So the report goes through what they call non-compliance areas. In other words, we didn't comply with the law, and then they give recommendations for each one. So there was an area of non-compliance in CTE. I'm not going to read it per se, but really what it was is that we didn't provide an annual board presentation or do a program review and share it with the board. What was done was on June the 19th, there was a presentation to the board, but that was after they had reviewed, because remember, this review happened in February. So when they came on here, they were looking at the year previous to that and if that had happened or not. If it had not happened, that's when we become non-compliant. So what I'm sharing here are just actions taken. You might say, all we did was just take one action step. The actions taken are referring to the area of non-compliance. So by showing that, I want to show that the district did do that. It just happened in June and not before February. So moving forward, what we will do is we will create a yearly program and evaluation and board presentation, and we'll be really strategic about what that looks like, how we present it, so that we have a timeline and a calendar so that we don't miss any of these things moving forward. We also will make sure that we look at the system. Most nowadays, I think we looked at our data, and it was in the 80s. About 80% of our high school students are taking some sort of CTE course, so it's not just a small group. And really, when you look at all those indicators, I identified that there were 32. There's a lot of overlap. So we have students who are enrolled in at least one CTE course who may also be receiving special education services and may be an ESL student as well. So that is where the state is looking. So what we want to do is make sure that we identify those students who are part of those special programs and we track them, because ultimately what we want to do is make sure that one, they're at a minimum proficient on STAR, and then ultimately ready for that CTE course so that they can be able to read, write, speak the language, and pass that certification test, right? Because we want students to leave with at least a certification if they're in our CTE coursework. So we're going to collaborate across departments. And the last one is just really making sure that we have both administrators and teachers trained in our CTE program, not around what they need to do, because they're the experts in their industry and that's why we have them here, but really how do we serve students well, and how do we connect those strategies that are good for bilingual or ESL students and those strategies that we know serve our special education, or students who are receiving special education services as well. And so again, it's a lot of collaboration across the departments. The good thing about a district our size is it's still possible. We have the support in each department. I think we have some of the best folks that we've been able to recruit, and then we retain, or we've retained some folks, and then just continue the cycle of training up, implementing, checking our progress in this evaluation cycle, which we will go through. So this is now the bilingual ESL. So we were stage 3 there. Again, we're not going to look at all the recommendations. I'll share what they were later in the presentation. But there was an area of non-compliance. And again, this is the same idea that there was not a program review and that it wasn't presented to the board. However, a program review was conducted. We have a presentation. It just wasn't shared with the board. And so that is where the non-compliance issue came. And so what we will do is, again, very similar to the CTE program, we will create this calendar of what it looks like, how we're going to evaluate our programs, and just be really strategic on how we do that and how we share that and present that out, not just to the board, but to the community. So some other action steps is, you all know that The whole purpose of a program review is to say, is the current model meeting the needs of our students? And so through that program evaluation, central office staff came to the conclusion that the current model was not meeting the students' need. That's why we were having the passing rate that we were, which looks at the bilingual indicators. And so that is why we're going to launch that dual language program. And so this, again, that program evaluation is really, what are we doing? Is it serving students well? And if it's not, how do we change it? And finally, for our students who are not in our bilingual program, it's how do we train up our teachers and also our administrators to really support our ESL students who may not be in that bilingual program. So the next area of noncompliance they look at is special education. So when you look at special education, it was a stage 1. However, there were 7 areas where they found noncompliance. So I'm not going to read a word for word, but I will highlight some of those 7 areas. And then I'm also going to ask Ms. Guzman, one of our principals, to talk about what that looks like from a principal perspective and how we can help alleviate some of those areas of noncompliance moving forward. So one of them was, for example, number 1, we're required to review a student's individual IEP at least an annual basis. So if we meet, I'm going to just throw out a date, in March of 2017, we have to meet before March of 2018 within that year and make sure that we're reviewing that. So that was when they did the review of folders. They asked the district, I need to see 10 folders. And then the desk auditor goes through it and they review the folders, and these are the areas that they found were non-compliant. Some other areas of non-compliance is that what we said we were going to do in the IEP wasn't necessarily what was documented as far as the service that was provided. So that's another area there. When I go to the next slide and share with you the other violations, there is another one for what we say we were going to do. We're going to create this goal, and then we have to report out progress. So a student still receives a progress report or a report card, but we also want to know progress on that specific IEP. So that was another area. So again, as I mentioned, I'm not going to hit all those, but I will share what the special education department did, and then you'll hear from the principal's perspective about how we have to monitor that. So part of what was happening, or what did take place in 2017-18, is there was a compliance training with special education teachers. So the training was provided. There was also a start of a POC group, or a professional learning community, among special education teachers, so that they can support each other in the work and what that needs to look like and the importance of why we need to follow the law. There was also a staffing schedule or a staffing study done by Region 13, and that is how staffing decisions were made. And then additionally, last year we had a behavior coordinator position that was filled, and we continue to fill that position as well. So moving forward, again, I won't read all the action steps, but our goal, as it is with the other areas, is to be not only compliant, so that when the state comes out again, we can say we have 0 issues, but move beyond the compliance. And so what you'll see there, those 5 action items are tied directly to those areas of non-compliance. So we will have, or what was a new position is a lead art facilitator who helps to make sure that these meetings are happening. Monthly compliance trainings to make sure that teachers understand the importance of why students need to have these supports, and we have to have the meetings, and we have to meet with parents and whatnot. Number 4, really important, increase that communication and the training for campuses, not only for the teachers, but for the administrator. And that's why I would like Ms. Guzman to share her perspective of a principal and what it means to monitor and then do what's best for students.
Good evening, board members. Okay. A little bit.
really it starts with having systems in place to ensure that all of my classroom teachers and special ed teachers truly know their students. And to help with this, we have started our PLCs at our school. Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez, for the conference that I went to. We were doing planning, but this boosted our collaboration to a whole different level. And so in these PLCs, we do have our classroom teachers and our special ed teachers collaborating over all students and really making sure and discussing accommodations, modifications, and any specific strategies that students need, and making sure that it is in their lesson plans. Another level that we've worked on and moved toward is RTI meetings monthly. In these RTI meetings, we discuss Tier 2 and Tier 3 students. Our Tier 3 students working with specific strategies and relating back to special ed goals and making sure that those are also happening. We do have a resource and inclusion classroom, and our resource classroom is run by my lead special ed teacher, Ms. Dawn Lynn. This is her first year. She's fabulous and has done wonderful in working with her special ed students. She has her students sign in the time that they come in and jot down what they're working on. She also has them sign out as well. So this also is another layer of documentation to ensure that our students are getting the needs and getting their needs met. We also do, as far as my level of responsibility, is being intentional about my walkthroughs and going in and making sure that the interventions that we do have in place for our students is happening. And so that is another layer of what we have. Now, we can always improve on what we're doing, and looking for this year, I have started with an important piece, choosing an assistant principal that is special ed strong. She has an eye for her special ed students with the experience that she has with working with them. Something else that we are putting and implementing for this coming year is having student binders. There's student special ed binders in the classroom. In these binders, they will have a list of their goals outlined, the times that they need, and this is kind of twofold. It helps with ensuring that the times and their goals are being met, but also teaching our students to be advocates of their learning. So that is what we're doing and putting into place.
Mrs. Guzman, I really appreciate you sharing a principal's perspective as far as the efforts that you have in place to ensure compliance and what you do to monitor compliance. But what I do want to make clear in light of recent events is, yes, we have been staged, but at a particular campus that has gotten quite a bit of attention lately, I want to make it clear that that is separate from the information that's here. What occurred at Weinert Elementary was negligence on the administration's part. And it is there's case law to support. It is the role of the principal to ensure compliance with IEPs. And the special ed team here ensures that we have support in place. Now, what we're going to do in response to what TA has provided and in response to what has happened at Weinert is put mechanisms in place to ensure that the team here is doing a better job of monitoring the programmatic practices that are happening at the schools. But I do want to make it clear that we have to rely heavily on the principal to ensure that students' needs are being met. That's why we have principals in place. It's not my role or Jason's role to be there monitoring the day-to-day. So I want to make sure that I make that clear, because I don't want there to be any confusion out there as a result of what has come from this TA report. Thank you, Ms. Guzman.
So we're going to go ahead and continue through this. And so we're moving away from the places where we were non-compliant to where TEA says, here are the things that are within the law, we would just like to see improvement. So these, there were 26 items that they listed. This is not comprehensive. When we come back and we share the next iteration of the work and we say, here's our plan, here's how we're going to respond, these are only a few of the areas. So you'll see that already they asked for things like standardizing RTI, which is the work that has already begun. So some of the recommendations that they're making comes from the same data sets, come from interviewing, because what they do is they interview district level staff and then campus level staff, and then they look at the documents. And so they triangulate, am I hearing, seeing, and is the data telling us the same thing, or where is the breakdown of the system? So they also want to increase the implementation of professional learning so that there is a district-wide push for the same types of learning so that we create a system of learners. They want us to review and revise principal supervision practices and procedures. So here are some of the recommendations. Again, this is not exhaustive of all the 26 items, but it is just some of the ones that pop up to the front. So what we will do moving forward, some of the next steps is we need to respond to TEA by July the 27th, saying we received the support, we acknowledge the areas of non-compliance, we will definitely consider your recommendations, and then what we need to do is twofold. One, we need to tell them that we will be compliant, so by or before August the 10th, we will create what they call a corrective action plan. So we will get with the department leads to make sure that we have a solid plan to correct those issues immediately. Even though TEA gives us 1 year, we will do it immediately. And then the other is what TEA calls a targeted improvement plan. This has been my work over the last 4 years to work with districts and campuses to create the strongest improvement plans. Not only create them, but then put them into play. So when I speak of what the work needs to look like, that is coaching principals, that is coaching teachers, that is make sure that we hold each other accountable. The accountability partner strategy, I always tell people that I support, accountability does two things. One, it forces you to move towards action, but if you're going to do that, you're going to need a team that's going to support you no matter what, right? You're going to need a team that's going to remove the barriers, and that is the role of central office. What we will also do is build on the successes that started when Dr. Gutierrez and his team came in with the 90-day plan. So there were some things that immediately had to be put in place, so that happened. Then comes the strategic plan. So the district has developed that strategic plan, and now we need to move towards action. So what does it look like on a campus on a daily basis? And that is what we're going to develop together with every single campus. And then we work towards creating these district-wide systems of support. So no person should feel that they're not receiving the support that they need. I always tell people, do you just want that or do you truly need it, right? And if we discover that somebody needs support, then it is our role to create that. And then finally, to maximize our taxpayer dollars and our resources, is we need to really think about what is going to have the best result on student outcomes. One, we want the best results on STAR, knowing that that is a minimum standard, and then we need to go beyond that, right? So no longer is it acceptable to say if we met standard on STAR, we're okay. If we met standard on STAR, we hit a minimum threshold. How do we move beyond that? So those are some of our next steps. As I said, we will come back to the board with another presentation of what our targeted improvement plan looks like, and then what the role of central office is, and then the role of the campus is. So what questions do you have for me at this point?
That's a lot of information.
It is.
I am so glad that you're here, and it sounds as though things are moving forward. Ms. Effenberger?
When you talk about 90-day plan, are you talking about 90 school days?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for clarifying that. We want the work to move as quickly as possible, but we know that the work is going to happen when we're in session. So a 90-day plan is our 90 school days. So really it's the first semester. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cantu, I appreciate you turning what could have been a very complex and confusing presentation into something that we were able to understand, especially explaining the difference in staging across those different areas. I think the way you articulated where we are with PBMES made it easy for all of us in this room to understand.
Any further questions? All right, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Cantu. All right, moving on to item 5G, we've got personnel information, professional employees, and comings and goings. Ms. Whitman?
Good evening, Board President, Superintendent, members of the board. We have a pretty extensive list of new hires this last round with the month board meetings, and a lot has happened from the last meeting to this meeting. So we have a lot of movement, a lot of new hires. What I won't go through every single person unless there's something you want to specifically point out. What I did is a little breakdown of what this round of new hires looks like. We have approximately 50 new hires on our sheet, and this was the bulk of our recommendations. Of those 50, we have 37 with bachelor's, 13 with master's, so 26% of the new hires do have master's degree. Breakdown through the ethnicity, we have 19 Hispanic, 3 African American, 28 white, which turned into 44% of the hires were minorities and 56% were not. So 44% is a positive, at least looking at what our breakdown turned out to be. And then we looked at also experience. I know sometimes at this point we might end up having 0-year teachers. Now next month, if we have any few last stragglers, they'll probably be brand new unless there's somebody that has moved in with some experience. But of this round, we have from 0 to 2 years experience, we have 18. 3+ years experience, we have 32. So 64% of this group have 3+ years of teaching experience. We have additional people in here. Ms. Halsey Dean was awarded a special education autism grant, which resulted in about 6 new positions, 3 teachers, a family engagement specialist, a behavior specialist, and also a program supervisor. So some of these new hires are also part of that grant. So that is reflective of the numbers. So any questions on the new hires before we go into some of the resignations? In the resignations, you can see those as listed. We try very hard to try to get the true reason why folks are leaving. Sometimes they're very vague on their letters, and sometimes they're very detailed. So we try to reach out. If not, if I can't get a hold of them, or if they don't want to come in for their exit survey or interview, then we will talk to the campus administrator. So several of those folks left for promotional positions. We have 2 longtime Seguin ISD employees, Noel and Deandra Dela Cruz, that are moving off back to McAllen. So there's some folks that we are going to truly miss. They know they have a home here. One of the corrections is Mr. Kirk Greenwan in his letter was very indicative of saying that he was changing career fields. Actually, he's changing career positions at a district. So he is going to our neighboring district at Navarro. And then several of the other individuals took either a teacher position going to a counselor, or a counselor position going to a lead counselor. So there were a few promotion positions as well. With all these new hires, a couple things twofold. We will have obviously our new teacher welcome, and we have a new teacher luncheon that will be set up when all the new teachers come back the second week of August, and we'll provide you that information if you just want to come meet and greet. But as we did last year, if the board would like, we could also still start the meeting a little early and have just an informal meet and greet with some refreshments, so you can get to know some of the new candidates as well and put some faces to the names, so we can give you that information. And also just a snapshot of kind of what we look like by campus this year. We have, and this is right now, so we have some final recommendations that are coming in. So Seguin High School experienced about 20 vacancies, and we still have an AP that we need to fill. I think you might know that Allison Williman is going up to a coordinator position at central office. So we have that posted right now, and I believe a science recommendation has come in and a possible ELA.
Other than that, we feel pretty staffed at the high school. Meister had 19 positions open, and right now we are processing, the one just came in tonight, 6th grade science and college and career readiness teacher. And with a change in leadership, it's not uncommon that you're going to see some changes with staffing. Barnes Middle School had 14 positions vacant, and he is completely staffed at this point. Ball Early Childhood had 5 positions, and we look staffed right now. Jefferson, 3 vacancies, they are staffed. Kennecke had 8 teachers leave. We have a 3rd grade bilingual, and I'll talk about that in a minute, that's still open. McQueenie had 2 positions, those are filled. Potlawn had 8 positions, and I'll talk about what's still pending there. A 5th grade ESL bilingual position. Rodriguez had 4 positions, we still need a 3rd grade bilingual. Vogel had 5 positions, and with some recent movement with promotion, and then just also hard to fill, we have 2 special ed positions that Halsey and her team are working to support Ms. Block in filling those positions. Weinert had 10 positions open, and it looks like we are completely staffed. And I'm talking teachers. We might have an 8 or 2 still that we have to place, but teachers, we feel pretty good about where we are staffing wise. The bilingual is killing us. And I'll just be honest, it's hard. I've talked to our counterparts. I was in Austin last week. They are still looking at the BTLPT, which is the oral administration test, but we're all fighting for the same very few people. So one of the things, and again, we don't want to ever go to any type of waivers if we don't have to. So right now, last year, in 13 years, or even more than that, before I got here, bilingual wasn't as hard. We've done 1 bilingual waiver at 5th grade Potlawn last year. So, and that all those students are English instructed, so we made sure we had an ESL teacher, we had to put a bilingual plan in place to the state level, and then all this comes back to hit what Mr. Cantu talked about tonight, because it doesn't help our staging, but it's a catch on not having some folks that are certified in those areas. So we refreshed our postings again. We utilize our counterparts at Texas State, at Texas A&M San Antonio. We contact those folks as well. I've had Dr. Queen send me her newest list from ACT San Antonio. But again, there might be 3 people, and that's going to all of us in the San Antonio area. So where we might be at that point, just to make sure we are prepared, it may result in 3 possible waivers. If we don't find the right person at Kennecke, we have a gal that has passed her BTLPT. That's the hardest one, and is still just pending the 2 others, just the core and the PPR, which is the pedagogy. So that piece is, we have our fingers crossed. She's been a teacher's aide for 3 years, so will be a brand new teacher, but at least we're looking at the certification piece. What we don't want is also just to put a warm body in there that may have that certification, and then we'll continue to be struggling in the areas that the state has identified. So it's a tough game to play at this late time, but you know, we're doing the best that we can. The principals are working super hard and trying to continue to recruit and or interview our folks coming in, and we're continuing on our end to push our feelers out as we get new people on board, like Ms. Gillentine from Hayes. Boy, we put our feelers out. Who do you know? And especially with some of our newer folks that have come in to utilize the networking on who might be out there that we haven't tapped into yet. So in a nutshell, that is where we are. We're at about 98 vacancies this year. We've historically been anywhere between 75 to 121, I think was our highest one year. So we are probably higher than we've been in the last couple of years. So we've always stayed around the last couple of years between 75 and 85. So we are at about 98 right now, but that's counting some of the grant positions. So we are a little bit higher in our resignations this year. Any questions?
Thank you. All right, everybody okay? Do we need a break? No break. All right, moving on to our consent agenda items. Policy BE, local states and consent agendas shall include items of a routine and or recurring nature grouped together under one action item. All such items shall be acted upon upon by one vote without separate discussion unless a board member requests that an item be withdrawn for individual consideration. The remaining items shall be adopted under a single motion and vote. Tonight we have the approval of board minutes, public meeting June 19, 2018, and regular meeting June 19, 2018. The approval of tax collection reports for 2018. Approval of donations received June 2018. Approval of investment report for fourth quarter 2017-18. Approval of investment report for the year ended June 30th, 2018. The approval of agreement for purchase of attendance credits. And the approval of the 2018-19 innovative course offerings, the approval of the renewal of Apex Learning licenses, and the approval of Seguin ISD participation in the Region 13 Regional Day School Program for the Deaf.
Madam President, I move that we accept the consent agenda items as posted.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Holt, a second from Mr. Flores. Any other, yes?
There's usually a monthly budget on there, and I know Mr. Hilbert had stated why there wouldn't be one, but if you could just state for the record why there's not one on this agenda.
Okay.
The reason we don't present a June budget and financial statement is because that's actually the audit document that you'll receive later. So historically, we've never done a June. You can do a June. It's not typical, but you can do one. But there are audit entries that the auditors actually do every year, and they can be material because they involve salary accruals as well as other accruals and adjustments to fund balance or reserves for inventory and other legal restrictions. So because of the materiality of those audit adjustments, most districts, actually all that I know of, but there may be some that do a June financial or a last month financial. But we don't want to mislead, so we hold May. Nothing changes in terms of the budget. If there were any budget amendments, those would be brought. There are no budget amendments, but the financial statement locks in at June, and then your final year end is what comes through the audit.
Thank you, Mr. Hilbert. All right, so I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Moving on to our action items, we have item 7A, the approval of interlocal agreements with the City of Seguin for the Latchkey Program and facilities use. So, Ms. Whitman.
Yes, good evening again. Tonight we are bringing forward the request to approve the interlocal agreements with the City of Seguin and the twofold program. The Latchkey program is our after-school daycare or after-school activity care for our 7 elementary schools, and nothing has changed in that agreement for this coming year. So there will still be a revenue share based on the participation rates. Also knowing that I think we had a few upset parents this year, there's a minimum of 10 students that's required for them to feasibly run the program. So McQueenie this year struggled with the 7 and 8 number. We just, we didn't get enough to implement at McQueenie. So, but that is written into their program, it's written into their parent application. So we just wanted to make sure the city continues to make sure when parents sign up, especially on some of those campuses, that they're aware that there's a 10 student minimum. The next agreement is similar to the agreement we brought back in March with the facilities use agreement. There are 4 areas that we partner with the city on. One is the Smoky Joe Field, and they are requesting that, and this was the same information back in March, that we can utilize their field. There's some things that we will do with our maintenance department to make sure that the fields are marked and prepped for games, and we will be responsible for paying for the lighting used for games, and the average cost came out to be about $1,000, so or $1,100 for the electrical fee. So that's the first facility. The second was the Max Starkey Park. I think it's the east side, and that's where the cross-country routes are done. It's a $150 fee that they're asking that we pay. Part of that is for them to get, I guess, the area ready enough just to use it. We do our own marking, and then other school districts come and use that piece. But we also have a nice venue to share, and we recruit a lot of teams to come to that particular event. The third is the golf course, and we had talked about, they adjusted some fees from the year before. I think, or really just some technicalities on when we could use the fees stayed the same, but when we could use the golf course, and then at certain times, only, in the non-peak hours that we could use it. If we did it during peak hour, then they would have to pay just about the same as any other players. So Coach Bush did some checking through the other areas and feels like this right now is the most reasonable to go for. We are still going to probably still talk in the fall with possibly the Bandit and see what other options are out there. But again, then we have to look at logistics and getting kids to and from a golf course that's further away. And I will be, the city did talk about also possibly reevaluating the fees right from this year to next year. So we'll be going through that process probably in the fall as well. And then the last piece is new. This piece is a new part, is the pavilion area in Park West. They are not charging us anything to use that facility, but did want to make sure that it was in the agreement. This is for our summer feeding program that we provide to kids and really the communities and families when they go to Park West. There's no fee to use it, but they just wanted to make sure it was noted in the contract that we use that pavilion and the concession area to serve. And yesterday when we were out and about, we got to witness it firsthand. So we take all our food out there with Jacob's program, child nutrition program, and use that facility at no cost. So at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? No? All right. Can I entertain a motion for approval? Mr. Amador, do I hear a second? Second from Ms. Reel. Any further discussion? Mr. Holt?
I know that it was shared on social media that I was pretty blindsided the city with my objection to the prior agreement, interlocal agreement, and I want the public and the community to understand that I didn't understand why we were making these adjustments and why we were making these changes, and they were not shared with us prior to the agreement. So I had some questions that I wanted Mr. Jones to answer. I am in support of this, even though there's nothing really changed from it. I don't necessarily agree with everything, but in the big picture, I do see that we're going to benefit, our students will benefit, our progress of our teams and the development of other things throughout the district, and we do need to work together. So I just want to make that statement and let them know that it was not anything detriment, but I do just want to understand what's going on and why we're spending money that we've in the past haven't had to.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Holt. I appreciate that. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, it's approved 7-0.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 7B, approval to purchase rigor and relevance staff development sessions and coaching days for 2018-2019 school year. Mr. Schmidt.
I'm actually going to step in place for a moment, but instead of Mr. Schmidt. I just want to note that the services, that the district has met all the competitive bidding requirements of CH Legal and CH Local. We will be procuring the services through Central Texas Purchasing Alliance Co-op. We will be utilizing contract 18-03-201 RFP and its contracted educational services and professional development services. So just want to again reiterate that we had met the competitive bidding requirements. And then Mr. Smith may take it away.
Okay.
Thank you.
Board President Jimenez, members of the board, Dr. Gutierrez. I did want to just take a very brief amount of time to talk a little bit about the rigor and relevance framework that comes through from the International Center for Leadership and Education that was associated with the Model Schools Conference that we went to in June that we spoke to earlier. Really one of the big pieces here with this staff development, it boils down to about 16 coaching days that we get. We have the opportunity to engage in collaborative instructional review. So there's experts in the field that actually come out and coach principals, that coach teams at the schools, and with the whole purpose being to make sure that we are teaching kids, students, not at a lower level to get them to approach the standard, or as Mr. Cantu mentioned, to maybe meet the standard. We want to be able to prepare students for the 21st century. We want to be able to make sure our students are college ready. What this does in a nutshell, Mr. Lewis, if you want to turn it over one, it really looks at two things when we're talking about education. It gives teachers the tool to make sure that they are teaching at a rigorous level. The biggest point, or one of the biggest issues to begin with, is people don't know what rigor means. Some people think rigor means more work. Some people think rigor means harder work. Some people think that rigor means AP classes, pre-AP classes. So it gives everybody a common language. And really what they're doing is using Bloom's taxonomy and really kind of ratcheting up the learning, so students aren't just talking about memorization and spitting out facts, but they're actually able to evaluate, create, and synthesize and create products. So on one level, teachers are armed with the tools to be in their planning to be able to create engaging lessons that are going to make students think, high expectations. It also gives principals, instructional coaches, academic deans the opportunity or the tools to be able to evaluate if this is happening. So one piece is rigor. The other piece, if you want to scroll up a little bit or scroll down, is the relevance piece. The relevance piece really simply states that it has to be engaging to students. It really has to mean something or be something that matters in their life. In theory, this has been going on since 1991. Over 10,000 classroom observations have occurred. There's basically a graph that you see here. The left side allows coaches to be able to give feedback to teachers on the left, which is how rigorous their instruction is. We want high levels of rigor. Down below, it talks about the application model. That is relevance. And that starts talking about, is this just in a single discipline? Is this a multidisciplinary thing that will cross over? Is this current? Is this something that happens and is actually relevant to real world situations? So that's kind of the theory behind it with the graph, and it takes time. It is a model that there's people that have been trained. As I said, they come in, basically this year it would be they would come in for a total of 16 days. At one point they would be working with 200 teachers. 5 consultants would come in. They would divide out with our science, social studies, English, math teachers, as well as our elective teachers, and give them the hands-on skills, give them the training, give them the modeling to be able to make sure that we are cranking up the rigor and making sure that we're teaching things that are going to engage students. Pretty exciting opportunity. There's been a lot of districts that have experienced success with it. The plan really this year is to implement it at the secondary level, knowing that we definitely have some work based on data, some work we really want to be focusing in at the high school, at AJB, as well as Barnes. And then we're not going to really go in 100% implementation or anything like that at the elementaries, because as you know, we're doing LINC, we're doing the dual language programs, we're doing AVID at Volga. We have a lot going on there. So it's kind of almost a reverse implementation, but the big thing is that it is result oriented, and that coaching piece does have a proven track record, and I think that everybody really generally agrees that students need to be challenged. If you walk into a classroom and you see students and look at engagement and behavior when students aren't being challenged, it looks a lot different than when students are collaborating and engaged and actually focusing on a product that is relevant to them. So that's a little bit about the rigor and relevance framework. Are there any questions?
And this was budgeted.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And it's Houghton
HMH, yes, ma'am.
Lots of combinations there, old. And it's going to focus on the secondary schools, 100%.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't understand that till just
Yes,
now.
ma'am.
All right. Any further questions? If not, do I hear a motion?
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the purchase of rigor and relevant staff development sessions and coach days for 2018-19 school year as so presented by Mr. Casey Smith.
All right. I have a motion from Mr. Holt to approve the purchase of the rigor and relevant staff development sessions. Do I hear a second? Second from Mr. Amador. Further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next one is to look at the possible action to order a general election for November 6, 2018 for trustees in single-member districts 2, 4, 5, and 7.
So moved.
So moved. Was that you?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
thank you,
yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Flores. And a second from Mr. Holt. Any discussion? If not, yes?
I just have one request for Vogel, because our district is really challenging having a voting place. I voiced my concern about Vogel being a voting site, so if we can just, excuse me, be sure that they can either set up in the vestibule, or if they have to be in that room, if we can have security in place for the entire day.
We actually did discuss that during our SLT yesterday about taking some measures to ensure that there is security in place during that time frame.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, if not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to designate an official voting delegate and alternate for the 2018 TASB Delegate Assembly in Austin, Texas from September 28th through 30th, 2018. Mr. Flores, are you going to be attending this conference?
I am not sure yet.
You're not sure? Well, if you do, would you consider being our alternate?
Yes.
All right. And
No
Mr. Holt,
objections.
all right, Mr. Holt has agreed to be our delegate. So if I could hear a motion for Mr. Holt as our delegate and our alternate is Mr. Flores. Mr. Jenkins, do I hear a second? Okay, second from Ms. Effenberger. Any further discussion? Not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Passed 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Holt and Mr. Flores. And last is appointing an audit committee for the Board of Trustees, and this falls on my lap to appoint this committee, and it only makes sense to me that our audit committee should be the same as our budget committee. So I am appointing Elena. I'd like to appoint Ms. Elena Reel, Ben Amador, and Ishmael Flores. Any questions? All right. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Approval?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Flores, and a second from Mr. Holt. Any further discussion? Everybody okay with that? Okay, everybody raise your right hand if you approve. Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. Okay, and that is it for our action items. Does the board have any comments or requests? Yes, Mr. Jenkins.
First request, I'd like to see in the next meeting, we need to be looking at superintendent evaluation and get that rolling. It has been a year now.
It has, and we actually just penciled in a date that we'll be getting out to you all. Nancy, do you know offhand what that?
21st.
I'll double check.
August, yeah.
August 21st.
August 21st. So
August
everybody check your
21st.
calendars.
That's correct.
All right. And also, there's going to be another workshop we penciled in on August the 16th. Yes.
I
yes.
won't be here the week of the 19th. I'll be in Auburn Hills, Michigan.
Okay. And you'll be
Now,
out,
is this one for,
that's
this is
superintendent,
the
yes, sir.
evaluation?
You're going to be out that entire week?
Correct. I won't be back till Saturday.
Okay. We
I
might need
leave
to look-
Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, I know you'd want to.
We can look at that week after
Okay.
and possibly
The 30th?
You have a conflict also on the 21st? Okay. The board meeting for August is which date? I don't have
The
calendar.
board meeting for August is
The
on
28th.
the 28th.
Okay.
We can do the 30th.
So we could look at the 30th to do the evaluation.
Everybody's looking at their calendar, so. If you could let Nancy know if the 30th is a problem, I guess, jot it down. You think that'll be fine? Okay.
Is it a closed session evaluation, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
I've also been given somewhere, I don't know where to put it, but information on ideas for what names we're going to put on the plaque at the high school. So we'll be forwarding that information to the board for your input on that. All right? Anybody else have anything? Any requests, comments? Dr. Gutierrez?
No, I appreciate the way the meeting was structured today. I feel like we spent a lot of time focusing on what is going to impact student achievement through going through the PBMAS report with Mr. Cantu and taking the time to listen to some of those individuals who had the opportunity to attend model schools. So I really do appreciate your focus today on student achievement.
We appreciated hearing from all those individuals as well. All right, that being
Madam
said.
President?
Yes.
Just one thing.
One thing.
I did have the opportunity over the past month to actually go with my daughter and tour a college, and a lot of things came to light in that tour. And I just want to get out to the community and the staff, and just to keep these kids informed about what it's time to start applying. If they're seniors, it's time to start applying for colleges. The opportunity for applications actually start around August 1st. So definitely start getting your applications in. Housing usually starts somewhere around October. So after looking at the one that my daughter was looking at, it's going to be pretty tight to get in. So she's already got all the information going. So it's something that we need to stay on. I know these kids need as much help as they can. If they're a lot of first generation college students. So if there's anything we can do as a district to help these students, please let's do that as well. I know that the college that we toured was very interested in getting down here and being more involved in getting more of the South Texas people up into the Central Texas school that they're doing. But yeah, I know that I talked with Dr. Gutierrez about it, and I guess he's called the Director of Student Affairs or Vice President of Student Affairs at that college is actually really interested in visiting with and seeing what we can do to promote our students to getting into college more.
We can make that happen, and they have a lot of money to give away through an academic scholarship that they have, and people don't realize that. Angelo State.
All right.
Not just to mention, but that is his alma mater. You know, come on.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Well, I hear several. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, it is 9:01, Nancy. We are adjourned.